Great,
So
thank you.
Derek, if you want to start us off.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So today, the big thing is going over the goals and objectives and the action plan. That's going to be the sections 7 and 8 of the plan, and as you can see, those areas are not entirely completed. What I put in section 8, this is on page 50, are the draft goals and objectives.
And was that based off of our survey that we did? Or
That's
was
based
that
on the survey, and then also based on the public visioning session. And so what I have here, I color coded it based on the goals that people thought were high priorities, medium, and low priorities overall. I scored it so that a top priority vote was 3 points, a second priority vote was 2 points, and so forth. So looking at them in terms of conservation and recreation goals, the highest conservation goal priorities were identifying land that's necessary to protect our natural resources, and then pursuing grants and other funding sources for land acquisition. And then for recreation, it was developing small parks, playgrounds, etc., improving maintenance of existing ones, and then creating additional recreational facilities for sports such as pickleball. And then the blue were the ones that overall people were, kind of medium priorities, and the yellow were ones that were generally low priorities based on and this is just based on the public visioning session, not based on the survey.
Okay.
So it's one of those where we can use this to inform, the decision making as far as if there's things to add in, things to take out, goal priorities to shuffle around. I'll give you a moment to
Now,
take a
have
look
you
at that.
already coordinated these two, or this was crafted before this?
This in here was before this,
Yeah.
so I haven't made any changes to this since the public visioning session. All of these goals and objectives, when I created the poster for for a Dino Fest, I just took all of these and put them
Just
in there.
put them on the board.
Yeah. I simplified it by just making it conservation and recreation.
Well, the top 4 here are the top 3 and 2s on here, so what was our top 4 back then, right? Because you just put them, you just kept carrying over on this document, it's still our top 4.
Yeah.
So that shows a need. See what I'm saying? These 4
Yeah,
here
yeah.
are right here. So
Yeah.
it shows that that's what the people want. So I think we should definitely keep those as high needs. One thing they didn't have here, that's in blue here, is adding more sidewalks to improve walkability in town. Oh, no, it is here. Okay.
Yeah.
I do see it
Yeah.
now.
And that was something that some people felt very strongly.
And some didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That
one of
on
either
the
they
fence.
it was like either all green dots for highest priority or all red dots for don't want this done at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Probably has to do with their ambulatory skills.
So are we thinking still keep that goal number 1 as the top goal, providing recreational opportunities for all?
Well, that's what I was asking, because it looked like it matched. So
Yeah.
if the purpose of this workshop is really to coordinate that,
I would say the top one would be improved maintenance of our town-owned parks, because it's not that we don't have the parks or the playgrounds, right? It's just that they want to improve them. So when they say develop small parks, like, do they want it at their neighborhood, like, block or something? Like, I don't know that that's something that we can feasibly do. Whereas improving maintenance of our town-owned parks is something that we can do.
Yeah.
Like, it's already been established a park, we just have to do better upkeep and bring in new opportunities for the newer activities like pickleball and stuff. So I think to develop small parks and playgrounds, maybe they mean to add on to, again, it would be adding on to, say, Brown Ellis. Maybe they want a playground there while their older kids are playing sports or something, and they have somewhere for their younger kids to do something, I don't know. Like, maybe that's something that we could look into.
because when I read that, I was thinking, if you're coming from an urban background, Yeah, I can see having neighborhood parks.
Right.
But a suburban or a rural background.
Yeah, and it's not like this town is so big that you can't get to wherever you want to go in 10 minutes.
There's not
Yeah.
that much of a demand for it. I mean,
Right.
I don't think there's a
If there was,
demand for it.
if it was lined up over at Dufrane's
Yeah,
to access it, but it's not.
yeah,
Yeah.
We can improve on what's there.
right.
Well, that's what I would
To
agree
your
with
point.
Crystal on that front.
Okay, so focusing this goal on developing the existing places rather than trying to acquire new
Yeah.
recreational facilities.
With the exception of the Brown Ellison, I think, maybe that.
Well, yeah, that, if you just threw that out, but maybe that's because you've experienced it when your older kids are playing a game,
No,
the
and I'm
younger
wondering,
ones.
well, I'm wondering if that's what they meant by develop small parks. That's what I was thinking, because there's not a lot of land in Granby unless you start cutting down trees and people selling their land to build that park. So I'm trying to think, like, for a small park, I mean, we have the big Dufrane's Park, but for a small park, we already have Brown Ellison, so they could just put maybe a small play structure there or something like that. And again, that would be developing what we already have.
Or breaking it up. If we're gonna do pickleball, do it over at Brown Ellison versus,
I don't know that they would have room, but it's something.
I don't
to
know
look
either,
into,
but I'm saying,
yeah.
if you're gonna
Yeah.
do something,
'Cause it's
put
fenced
something,
in, yeah.
put something at one end.
It's more fenced in at Brown Ellis, whereas it's not fenced in at all at Dufrane's. So you'd have to have
Well,
a
that's what I'm
fenced in
getting at.
area for
There's nothing.
pickleball, because you don't want to be chasing that ball in the, in the field.
Yeah, you want to fence around it.
Yeah,
Now, this would not include any of the high school or the
well, it's open
West
space.
Street. Well, not West Street, but it's
East
open
Meadow.
space.
Yeah, so
East
both of
Meadow.
those are open space, but East Meadow has a brand-new playground when they
Well,
renovated
yeah.
it. So, but the high school doesn't, so we could do pickleball at the high school. But how will that work with it being a closed campus during the day?
So you said West Street.
I slipped with that, but that,
I know, but why
That might
not?
be something to look
but
into
in the
too,
back,
yeah.
on the back side, you could probably, because there's no access there now, but if you had an access to occupy that end of the field, so you didn't engage the building, which will become
But if it is gonna
administrative.
be the senior center eventually, that would be good to have a pickleball. court
Yeah,
there.
that's what I was thinking.
Well,
But
that's what
that
I was
might be
getting.
a couple years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, and these goals can be,
Well-
anywhere from 1 year to 7 years in the
Okay.
future. So, and that's actually part of, I don't know if it would be helpful to go through all the goals now or
Okay.
do each goal one at a time and work on the action
While
plan
we're doing
for
it.
that.
Yeah, I think that sounds good to do them simultaneously.
Okay,
We've only got an hour here, right?
Yeah,
hour and a half. Yeah, so we have till 7. So if you look at section 9 is the it should be 7-year, it says 5-year in here, but 7-year action plan. And this identifies which specific actions are going to be taken, which town entity is responsible for that, the priority level, which you all would determine, the time frame. The old ones kind of vague, ongoing, under consideration, but the state would usually like to see more specific, like, this is a year 2 project, or this is a year 4 project. And then possible funding sources.
so this was their goal 1 back, and the last time that they updated it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything that's highlighted needs to be updated, but I just put it in there as kind of a template.
Well, it's highlighted because you want us to look at it, but you're not necessarily asking for change.
More
Right.
more specificity as far as time frame and who's gonna do it, and then what our priority level is when it comes to
No,
that.
what I'm getting at, just take goal number 1, for example.
Yeah.
If we like the way that's read,
Yeah,
do we have to change it?
We don't, some of it is,
I
because,
mean, it's rather generic and global, but it's hitting all the points
Yeah.
of what we're talking about here. with-
yeah, and the goals are supposed to be fairly broad. Because that one is similar to what we have as the third goal, which is protect water sources and local water supplies. But I would say for now, if we want to focus just on the first goal that we've been talking about, the recreational opportunities, What are some specific actions? I heard some of them, like potentially like a play area at Brown Ellison. Is that something that could be, do you think, a potential
We
action?
would have to ask the community, right, if they would want something like that, but it could be a potential one.
I think it's, I mean, I have
Pickleball
no.
court, I know is, pickleball is really taking off, so I know people really want that, and it was a high demand. So I think we should definitely have that on there. And then, it says improve maintenance, so just updating everything at the park. And I know we just had, renovated Dufrane's Park, but a lot of the equipment is not geared towards toddlers. They have this one little small structure and no baby swings. They have nothing for babies or toddler swings. It's just regular swings there. So updating it to make it more user-friendly for all age groups of children, I think would be, but that would require them to expand it a little bit more than what it is. Because a baby swing set can't be on a regular swing set, it's way too tall and stuff.
I never knew there was a difference.
There's a difference. And that's been one of the complaints that people are putting on Facebook, is that there's not anything there for babies. So if they're watching their 4-year-old, they've got to hold their baby, because they don't want to put the baby down on wood chips. And there's no
Oh,
swing to
no,
put the
I
baby
understand
in.
that, but
Yeah.
I guess, anyway, it's all rather foreign to me, so I really
You're a
probably
different era like I am.
I shouldn't be commenting. I might say something I regret. Well, I'll follow whatever you say, Crystal.
So for potential actions, identify a location for a pickleball court, baby/toddler swings at Dufraine Park, renovating just all the high school fields or any specific
Well,
ones?
Tennis.
I was gonna say that a tennis court is
Is-
completely
or-
demolished.
yeah, it's gone,
So
basically.
if that means, yeah, so,
Well, the tennis court, I guess it's still
Not a
there,
tennis
but you
court.
can't play there anymore.
no,
Is it
everything,
the
there's
fencing even there?
fencing
That's
they took
gone.
down.
They-
It's just
Well,
whatever's
rest-
left of the, I don't even know if it was
foundation.
asphalt, I don't know what it was.
Well, asphalt will disintegrate if you don't take care of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So looking at that, is that something the town as a whole should be doing, or is that
yeah, because
something
it's
that,
open space.
that's part of the open space?
Yeah, that would, so the high school and East Meadow are also part of open space, so it would be part of a
Were you
grant that
going
we
down
could
the road
get.
of, does the school committee take care of it?
That's, yeah,
A
that's,
different budget?
Their operating budget shouldn't pay for maintenance of a field, though.
Their operating budget can't afford those?
No.
All right, well, I
They're
didn't
in,
know, I didn't know that.
they're
I
in
mean,
danger of losing grants because we had to cut so many, or they had to cut so many positions just to level fund the budget this year. So we might lose a lot of grants next year because they weren't able to.
so,
I didn't know that.
so why were the tennis courts there to begin with? Were they
I
for
think
a
when it
high
was-
school team, or was it for the public?
I don't even
Because a lot of
know.
times you do something like that, and they don't allow the public to use them.
That's a good question. I don't know,
They were there as
Not sure.
part of the high school
when it was originally built, right?
And I grew up there, but I don't recall ever being told, not, you can't use it.
I believe it's a
But-
closed campus while the kids are in session. So they'd be able to use it after hours, but not during the day. And I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's a closed campus. So like people off the street, so to speak, can't just come on there and be like, oh, I'm gonna play basketball at the high school, or I'm gonna play pickleball at the high school.
It's for the
It has
use
to
of
be
the
after
school.
school
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, and if you
Well,
look
that
at the
makes
signage,
sense.
or at least it used to be, it was no trespassing signs.
I don't think they have any no trespassing signs anymore.
Okay.
I don't know, I don't park on the student parking lot. They don't have it in the teacher parking lot, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
And I know there's people that go and walk their dogs during the day there, but I'm not sure if they get yelled at or if
Well, I
they've
guess
been
to
spoken
my
to.
point is if it's set up that
Yeah.
way, you wouldn't want to put pickleball there because
Right.
that's seniors.
Everyone can play, but I hear what you're saying.
So,
Like, you don't want it to seclude them when they have the daytime hours to go out and
yeah,
play.
you put pickleball in a place that can't be accessed.
Right.
Yeah.
At the correct time.
Well, I think
Right.
that's where West Street becomes attractive, because
I know.
that's not going to be a school, that'll be an
It will be a
administration.
community
It'll be a
center.
community
Yeah.
center, So, and the point I was making, and I don't know if there's a benefit to having access off of Crescent for any activities, if you wanted to put pickleball in the back, so it wouldn't be part of the front, but as you point out, this facility is moving to West Street. So maybe it would be beneficial to have the pickleball closer to the building.
I think it would.
So-
If they need
I would,
to sort of go to the bathroom or.
whether it's pickleball, I'm on
Or
that,
whatever.
I'm on that committee, so.
Or whatever.
We're getting some pressure for that, plus basketball courts for the seniors to,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's not
But have it
necessarily
closer to the
seniors.
building.
Right, but
versus-
community,
Yeah,
it's for the community, but you don't have to worry about the restriction of
Right.
being on school property.
yeah.
correct.
You don't want to
And
mix
you have the
those
parking lot at West
populations.
Street where people can park to access those easily.
Yep.
Yeah, I think West Street probably would be
Well,
the
they're
best
probably
spot
going to
for
make,
it.
they're going to improve the parking lot, aren't they? They're making it larger, or will
I
they
don't know.
need to, I wonder? I don't know.
Right now, it's not in the budget. There's going to be some, we're being told DPW is going to take care of some stuff in-house
Yeah,
to make it accessible and up to code. As far as expansion, I don't necessarily think in our discussions that we're going to need expansion because.
Well, that's the point I'm making. If you've already studied it and the population of people expected to be using the building, the existing parking lot is adequate, there's no reason to expand it, so.
It's much larger than what's here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So-
Well, you got two parking lots too.
Exactly. So to expand it, there's no reason
You
to.
may not
based-
need to.
Based on the, but some of the other uses that we're talking about still probably may not require it, especially some of the uses will be after,
Well,
you know.
you got to think
on-
about that.
yeah.
Time is really critical.
yeah.
Some neighbors make perfect neighbors because their utilization of the parking is different. So,
So as far as who would be responsible for that, what committee or department in the town?
I think that, honestly, I think that would fall under the select board, right? Because they would have to apply for the grants in order to access what's available to the town.
Okay. And then for the swings at Dufrain and then the tennis courts at the high school, those both be also Board of Selectmen or the Parks?
You don't have the Parks
Oh,
Committee.
yeah, you don't.
It still falls under you guys, the
Yeah,
select board.
and,
Okay.
yeah, and the Parks Committee would present it to us. So, until we're able to establish a Parks and Recreation Department, I think just put it under the select board.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you can put / Parks and Recreation, just in case a committee gets formed before then, because there's been talk about it at our last meeting, that that's something we want to work towards. Which is so none of this stuff, Derek, is gonna be, if it's in the budget. I mean, a lot of this is financing, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know if we can make a plan, and we have an action plan, but if we don't have the money for it, and the people don't want that, and they want something else instead, well then, that changes.
Yeah, but having it in the action plan will help you in applying for
Get the
grants.
grant,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so if there's something that you think you want in the next 7 years,
Okay.
put it in here.
Okay. Good to know.
Other objectives that were related to this goal,
Of recreation.
yeah, so the ADA accessibility,
That was blue, so that was like a second priority, right? So I
Yeah.
think that would be something to have there. And I do believe when they renovated the parks, there were supposed to be ADA mats laid down, and I don't think there has been. They call them transfer mats, or transfer. I'm gonna look into that.
and that's one thing that, towards the end of the plan, that the town is going to have to do is the ADA self-evaluation component of the
Okay.
plan. So that's a required part of it, but it's something that the town has to do. And I can give you, I have some information on that I can give you afterwards. But yeah, we can also make that an action item to look at improving accessibility.
Yep.
What else?
Restrooms were yellow. I mean, we have them at Dufrane's, but it's only open if people are renting the
facility.
facility. It's not open to the public. because we don't have a park and recs department that can come and clean it or
Yeah.
anything. Nor do we have someone that can go and make sure it's not being vandalized.
So how
And
do you
right
take
now,
care
I
of it
think-
right now?
They, when someone rents it,
They're responsible.
the gentleman goes and pays it, you pay
A fee,
deposit,
And
and then
then,
you get that deposit back, or some of it back anyways, when nothing's damaged.
oh, it's
you can-
primarily a damage thing?
Well, and you're renting the facility, so it's a little bit of both.
But I guess the question I had was, who takes care of it now? That, you're talking about the money piece, so that
Yep.
means the town hires somebody to
Yes.
clean the facility?
Yep.
Okay. And if it's damaged, of course, there's more money to be taken out of your rent.
Depending, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a security built into the
Into
deposit
the
that you pay,
deposit,
and you
sure.
get something back, but if the damages go over that, then
Yeah.
they would have to pay
Yeah.
for it.
Okay.
So is that something that we want to put on here, or is it just not?
Oh, increase access to water I wouldn't put facilities, would you guys? The bathroom facilities? We'd have to, where we run water from for Brown Ellison.
Well, is
Yeah.
that the only site?
Well, so other than Dufrane's, all the other sites,
Or just open fields?
well, they're still required to have
Restroom?
a Sandy can there.
Okay. I know Brown Ellison does.
Correct.
Bachelor Trailhead doesn't though. It's woods. It's a trail.
Yeah.
I don't think they have to have it there.
Hmm. But you can cover it with a Santa can,
I believe so.
the responsibility, yeah.
I think GA is the one who pays for it though, because they have all their practices and games there and stuff.
Because that still requires maintenance, so
Right,
You know,
but they
that-
pay the company. to do
they
it.
pay the company to do that, okay.
So do you guys want to put the restrooms on there?
For-
Or as low priority for our action plan?
Or just leave it off altogether?
Well,
It did make the list, it just was the top priority on the list. So we could always put it towards the bottom and say low priority at this time.
it should be on there, I think.
Yeah.
Just as a matter of.
Because
that
it
we're
is something that.
We're
they-
addressing it
Yeah.
as.
And specifically at Dufrain and Brown Ellison at both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, those are the primary two. Obviously, we have Forge Pond is part of the open space, but when we start identifying open space
Yeah.
recreation areas, I'm only thinking Dufrain and Brown Ellison.
For bathrooms anyways.
So what differentiates the two?
Well, that's what I'm
So
getting
we
at,
need
is
to
where do
think
we
about
draw
that.
the line? Because you did mention Bachelor Street Trailhead.
Trailhead.
Yeah.
And and we have a couple of those around
Yeah.
town.
I mean, it's more the distinction between, I guess, active versus passive recreation. Like active recreation would be.
Playing a game.
Yeah, games,
And
playgrounds.
passive is walking in the woods.
Yeah, or paddling a
Or paddling a
kayak or
canoe.
something, yeah.
Okay.
Something that doesn't require built-in facilities necessarily.
So think of it more of like an assembly versus a,
Assembly use versus,
Yeah, larger
Single.
groups of people
Mhm.
coming together
Yeah,
versus just a
yeah.
couple people. going
well, yeah,
for a
when
hike.
if you have a game, you're gonna have people at the game and people
Yeah.
watching the game,
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
there's more of a congregation that you have to take care of
yeah.
versus walking on a trail. All right, that's a good way to differentiate.
Yeah. So we would do it at the more active
hmm
places.
Yeah.
So that reinforces the need to keep restrooms in there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then who would be responsible for that?
Select board.
Is that going to be the answer?
It would be,
I mean,
it would be.
are there any other town departments that would deal with anything related to this? To
I think the
any
only-
recreation?
Well, go back to your Dufranes, because that's really what I was drilling down.
Yeah.
Who takes care of the toilets? And you said, okay, the tenant basically pays rent, and in that rent, there's monies to repair damage if there is damage, but also maintenance,
And pays
because.
the guy to open and pays the guys.
And who's
So I
who's
guess
the
the
guy?
question I have is, who at the town Is it you, Crystal? Is it
It's
somebody on the select board?
It's Kathy who
Kathy
organizes
Leonard.
those.
So she's the gatekeeper, if you will.
Her and Chris, yeah.
Yeah.
So they fill out the application, they tell us what they want, what they need, if
And
they need the
Kathy or
bathrooms.
Chris say, okay, you've done it all correctly, here's
Yep.
your key, and you can have it next Tuesday or Saturday, or whatever the date
Right,
is you
and
rented
the
it
gentleman will
for.
be there at the time that you say that you're gonna be there.
To
give you
open
the
up.
key, to open it up
Yeah.
and give you the, well, he doesn't give you the key, but
No,
open
he
everything up,
put
and then
open for you.
whenever you say you're leaving, he's there a
To
half
close
hour
it up.
before you leave to close it up.
So that gets back to, you're asking who's responsible.
board.
It's the
Okay.
town
Yeah.
administration, right?
Yeah.
That's that department,
Well, the department would be select board's office.
Yeah.
select board's office, okay.
And then, I'm assuming no, but does the town have an ADA agent at all?
Doubt it.
No, okay.
We don't even have
That
an
was
HR
just-
agent.
Yeah, we don't even have HR. Next.
Well, we don't have IT either.
Okay.
Not getting into details.
Let's discuss what we do have. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
shorter list.
Put a positive spin on
You,
this.
you do have a lot of recreational potential, such as boating, fishing, and swimming potential. But, so the increased access to water-based recreation,
Yep.
what could that, I mean, I know we talked about Aldrich Lake Pond.
Aldridge Lake is the problem child because there's
Yeah.
really no access without crossing private property. And especially now that a lot of the access points are being bought up by people and they're building their homes there. And I don't blame them, they don't want the public walking across their land to go fishing on their property technically. So Forge Pond, on the other hand, does have a nice public access
yes.
part. But we have other challenges with Forge Pond. So I think, even though I've seen people fishing at both, because there's different types of fish in both of those lake or water areas, but
How could we access Aldrich Lake though? Because right now they do it off of Amherst Street and they park on the side of the road
and they walk across the guy's land, which is really irritating. But
Yeah.
if you remember where the Girl Scout camp was, I think that's now owned by DCR, part of Mount Holyoke Range. But that's got tremendous access, but I don't know what access the town has to use that property.
That's right across from Bachelor Street.
It is. Because it's the where you're talking
Yeah.
is down closer to the lake. Where I'm
Yeah.
talking, the Girl Scout entrance drive was up there.
Well, there's a
and then you
pond there too.
There's another pond on the other, if you go right, but you can also follow that around.
Right across the street, there's a pond. That's where the old roller skating,
Ice skating?
roller skating,
Oh.
On the east side or the west side?
west side.
Well, there is another pond separate from Aldrich Lake,
Correct.
but you can go in that same access point. But I'm getting at is, it's not owned by, I don't know if it's owned by the town. I don't think it's owned by the town anymore, all that land. It's owned by the Mount Holyoke Range people. Is that DCR?
It is DCR.
So,
Because they also came to the select board and asked for permission to widen the trail on the Granby property for the Mount Holyoke Range, and it was DCR that came to us.
So what,
Because they would be widening the, no, it couldn't have been
when you're
DCR because they
asking
wouldn't have
for
asked us.
I
access
think that's
points,
all
that's all I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
there's a
we're-
little
Like us?
parking area right
That's the
right
one-
over here.
That's the one Crystal was talking about, and what people do
The
is
nephew of
walk this way
Mr.
and
Okay.
fish
Oh, okay.
here.
I think it's Bruce.
What about
This
going
is-
to the other side? Is this DCR
Well,
owned?
This is steeper on this side and it's harder to walk down to. What I was saying is if you come up here, this is Bachelor Street, and there's a right-of-way up in here, and this is part of, this accesses the whole, it gets into the lake, okay?
Yeah.
So, and I think this is what you were talking about also, or
I
you're,
don't know,
there's
where's
another one.
Bachelor Street at Amherst?
right here. Okay?
Yeah.
And the right-of-way
That is what I'm talking about, because the Aldrich Lake is in here.
is down here.
This is the pond I was
Yeah.
referring to.
So where's the Girl Scouts right here?
I think the Girl Scouts are up in here.
So is there a possibility to do a parking lot there for people to access
You
it?
could, but that's
We
the
have to
part I'm
find
saying,
out
we
whose
don't.
property it
Whose
is.
property it is and whose whose
I can-
permission we need.
I can pull up,
Because I think that's Mount Holyoke Range now.
That could be one of our, because it's blue, right? So that
Because
was the
that would
second
get you
main
to the Aldrich
priorities.
Lake watershed without crossing private property.
Right.
It's kind of sort of private property, even if
And
it's
I'm
state
sure the
property,
people around
right?
there would appreciate
but
it
if
too.
if it's state property, then I think it would be easier to
Access.
coordinate with, yeah, it looks like
I don't
that.
know who owns that.
I think
My
it's
mom
Aldrich.
was a
I think-
Girl Scout.
I think Aldrich still owns that.
You think that's still all controlled by Aldrich family?
It's owned by the Commonwealth of
Oh, it
Massachusetts.
is state.
Yeah,
I thought it was state. I thought the Commonwealth.
so,
I think that should be a neat priority.
so collaborate with DCR.
Because that would give us access to the lake without crossing private property.
But is there a way to get, does Amherst Road completely cut in half the lake, or is there a way for boats to go under it?
It's Amherst Street,
Oh, Amherst
number
Street.
one. And you can't get across. I mean, if you're in a boat, you can get under, I'm supposing. I've never done it, though. How big is
Yeah, I
that
was wondering if
culvert?
it's like just a little culvert, or if it's actually navigable with a small
It's been a
craft.
I've
long
never
time
been out
since
of water.
I would say no.
You would say,
I
I
don't
would say no.
think you can.
because I know Amherst Street is basically an earth berm that the road is on,
Yeah.
but there is some sort of a water
Yeah,
crossway,
there's a culvert.
But it might be
a-
Multiple culverts, but
Yeah.
but it's probably not navigable.
I would say no, because you don't know what the
The clearer the headroom height is.
And when I kayaked
And it
it with my
changes.
friend over 10 years ago, we went from the lake to the little pond.
Oh, you
And
used a
back. Like, we
kayak?
went, she took me kayaking once there.
Oh, and you went
But
under
you
there?
couldn't-
You went
I did
on-
not go under the bridge.
Oh,
We accessed that guy's property.
well, he wasn't
We
there if it
parked on
was
the
10
side of
years.
this, we parked on the side of the road, and right there where it goes down to the pond, that's where we put our kayak in
Yep.
and we went. So,
Well, how'd you get to the little lake then? You went on the other side?
because if
then?
you saw on there, it connects to the lake by
Oh,
that
all right.
little.
It does
by the
connect,
water.
it does connect.
Which side of Amherst Street did you,
I'm talking
Did you go
about.
on?
I'm not an east-west person, I don't know
She,
what's east or west.
well, if you
on
got
the
into the
street.
small pond,
Yeah,
she went, in other words, she entered up here.
right here.
okay,
So,
so then you were
Amherst
on
Street,
state land,
and then went this
you weren't
way.
on private property?
Oh, you were on Old Mill Lane?
No, we
parked
accessed
right
it through
there.
Amherst Street, right here.
Yeah, oh, on this
And there's a
side.
little dip there, and you.
And you went down over here and
You
then.
can kayak all
Yeah.
the way over.
Yeah,
and
down
then
towards the
over
dam.
here.
And you
Yeah.
went all the way up
Yeah.
to where the Girl
Here.
Scouts used to be, yeah.
That
So-
was many, many years ago, I don't even know.
But you didn't go under Bachelor.
I did not go
I'm
under
sorry,
Amherst
Aldrich Street Bridge.
I mean, it
It's
looks
not-
like you can,
It's not, well,
right?
Well, you
that
might
you're-
be able to, or you might not, depending
we're
on.
talking
Right.
about this road here.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're thinking there might be a couple culverts.
Yeah.
But they,
There may be
It's
a
hard
time
to
of
see.
year you can get through, and there may be times where you can't.
if you were in a,
So for recreation though
Kayak.
too, I mean, your picture says it all. I don't know if we can put that on there, but dredging the pond, right? That would be open space and recreation, creating more
Yes.
fishing, boating. I would not swim in that pond, but maybe fishing and boating.
well, that's. is
And a lot of towns and cities are getting away from swimming pools. They're
Yeah.
too expensive, they're high maintenance.
That comes up in
So-
every open space
It's
plan
just-
I've done, people say we want a pool, but the town is like, no, never gonna happen.
Yeah,
There
like
aren't
if
enough.
anything, it would have to be a sprinkle pad or something like that,
Oh,
but,
that's
Yeah.
fine for the little kids, but.
yeah,
You
but I
can't
don't,
get, you can't get lifeguards, so.
yeah.
Lifeguard, and that's a major
Yeah,
issue.
but the town should have a swimming facility.
We should have something, right?
Well, you know,
How do you
Whether
teach
it's-
kids to,
Whether it's in the high school, whether, yeah, but I would rather a public access indoor somewhere.
an indoor pool?
Yeah.
Yes, those are
And you
even
can-
more expensive.
Yes,
No,
they
but
are.
you can pay,
Yes,
you
they
can
are.
rent them out for birthday parties like Belchertown does. You can also have open swim times where people come and pay to swim inside, especially in the winter when you don't have much activities.
But that's a whole, I agree, that's a whole department we don't have, though. Is
But it
indoor
could be a goal
pool.
that we would, like, maybe lower priority, but maybe a goal that we,
Well-
because if
Well-
it's not on there, we can't get a grant for it either.
All right, well, that's a strategy.
you know, originally, the high school
had a pool.
Was supposed to have a pool. And one of the buildings in the back was supposed to help support, that little building in the back, right behind the gymnasium.
Oh, shed, yeah.
That was also supposed to support an indoor pool. And indoor pools provide a service for all age groups.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, I'm, you
From
don't have,
toddlers,
you
to
don't
teach
have
them
to
how to
s-
swim, how
yeah.
critical that is, and seniors, it's no better exercise.
I totally agree with you, Jim.
Indoor.
The challenge, of course,
Do you want
is
to put it on?
facilitating them.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
get it.
that's the
I get
part,
it.
and we need to have, you just can't have kids checking the chemicals and all that. It needs.
I know, they're high
real-
maintenance,
Yeah.
but to me.
But the upside is
that's a-
very good. The upside is very good. And if we don't have it on here, we don't have a chance of getting grant money for it, so then that, to me, would be a reason to have it on here.
And
What would the
then,
priority be?
do we have to put a number to it, or?
Low, medium, high?
Medium. Yes.
It's not a high priority, but it's,
And it would be attached somehow to the schools.
No, it'd be the same.
it's like we're, no, well, that, it
so-
would make sense, because the
Yeah.
school would be the,
The beneficiary, well,
The beneficiary,
there's a number of
If it's at the
beneficiaries,
school.
but,
Which we gotta find out where we would put it to.
well, it's a whole project unto itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I've built a few of them, and I know but they've always been associated with healthcare and medical reasons, so, and there are lots of benefits
Well,
to having a
Yeah.
pool.
the main use
But-
would be the school, a swim team, right, to compete with
Well, that would
other
be
schools.
another,
But it would also work into, you know, with the schools, it doesn't necessarily just, if it's at the high school, it doesn't eliminate the elementary school
Right.
or the middle school from using it at designated times,
Right.
and the seniors and the rest of the public.
it gets into, to me, the reason I like the school campus is that would play a part into where do you locate the pool? Maybe you locate it towards more of the center between the two buildings, I don't know. But just so provide access for both sides, an easier access point. But again, you're talking about an entire department,
Yeah.
and it has to be treated as a formal department. You can't, not only is the building expensive, you've got to take care of it, and you've got to take care of it properly.
Yep.
And, but there are a lot of benefits to the community if we can make it work.
I think that's one entity or one facility that would get use from a multiple.
It's almost like a skating rink where you have.
Well, you're not going to get seniors out on a skating rink.
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, there are seniors, but not like, you probably have more with a pool than you do
Yeah.
at a skating
But
rink.
they'd be too worried of falling and stuff, a lot of them. Some people who've been on ice skates
Well,
are comfortable on them,
yeah.
they'll do it.
I was comfortable on them, not so much anymore.
All right.
So we have the pool.
Do we want to put the high school or the school department as that, or are we putting it under the select board? I think that's what we were trying to
I think it
decide.
wants to be select board.
Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't put it under the school district. They've got many issues to deal with. Don't you agree, Jim?
I would, absolutely.
So then the other items that were low priorities at the visioning session were purchasing easements or develop greenways to connect neighborhood schools and center town.
That, again, I see urban
Yeah,
things creeping into this at a suburban or a rural setting.
The
I don't know.
community, yeah, I wouldn't put that either.
yeah. You wouldn't put
I
the,
wouldn't
Do
put
you
the
have- what do you
purchase
think?
trail easement.
okay.
Yeah.
What about the sidewalks one, which was a medium priority?
Well, the
yes,
the sidewalks, I think, are
think
being
s-
addressed.
Well, down 202, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are looking for it on their, if you do it on the side streets, you're gonna lose your property. Because you have to take it, you can't shorten the road or anything, you'd have to take the people's
Well-
property in order to make the sidewalks.
Not really. It falls within the right-of-way typically.
Okay.
All of these all sidewalks should, like, I live on South, the typical right-of-way in Granby, I believe, correct me, is 50 feet. But sometimes when you get onto Smith
And
Avenue,
you're talking
Land Drive,
24
it-
what would be the purpose of having sidewalks? Where are you going to walk to?
Well, even if you're
Just
walking
walk.
from house to
Just-
house or whatever, if you're on Lynn Drive, example, dead end, you can walk in the street, which is where most everybody is.
Well,
So-
from the planning board's perspective, I hate sidewalks because nobody uses them. The Pioneer Valley has, yep, so we work with Ken.
Oh, yeah.
And what we found out is the less impervious material surfaces, the better. So our bylaws call for 30-foot roads.
Right, yeah.
Pioneer Valley's pushing to 24.
Yeah, they are reducing the
They're
width.
reducing it, and they're also reducing sidewalks on both sides of the street. And living on Maximilian for years, whether it's kids walking to the school,
Well, there you can.
or adults walking to get some exercise, they don't use the sidewalks, because the sidewalks are never built wide enough where you can walk two abreast.
Right. Weren't they 5 feet or no?
No, they're
3 feet?
3 or 4 feet, and it's not wide enough to walk it comfortably, so they're in the street.
I mean, any new sidewalks would have to be ADA accessible and everything, and I don't think a 3-foot sidewalk, I don't know exactly what the,
Yeah, so
No,
they're
6
4
feet
feet, but it's
is
still
the
not enough to
standard.
walk two or three
Two-
abreast.
Yeah, it's just one of them.
Well, if
And-
there's low vehicle count also, it's safe to walk on the road.
So I guess my point is, what's the purpose of sidewalks?
And the heartburn I have with sidewalks on 202, if you're in the Five Corners area, I can see maybe a benefit for a sidewalk. But when you go from Five Corners, this region, to say, you try to walk to the center of town, I'm not saying nobody does, but not many people have a need for it because everybody's got a car or some sort of vehicle to get from point A to point B.
And, correct, and if, to me, that's a low priority, that if you want to walk, we've got the parks,
Yep.
the track. I see people parking at Brown Ellison, walking
Yeah,
the
and they
track all
walk
the
the
time.
track.
You know,
It's a safe,
It's
Well,
safe,
there's a-
and you can have your younger kids, as you're running the track or walking the track, ride their bikes.
Right.
And it's safe, and you don't have to worry about cars.
right.
so I think if
And the
that's
other
the purpose of that.
Well, the
I
other
think we
question
have-
I had is, if you think about sidewalks in, say, Dufresne Grove, or not even the Grove, going up in the woods, you're not gonna put paved sidewalks up in the woods. are
Right.
you?
No, that takes away from the character of the whole
So,
idea.
so I guess we're talking ourselves out of a need for sidewalks.
And,
And it was
and like
already-
they said too, down 202, they're gonna be done by the state anyways. So if it's a main road
Well,
access thing,
202 stops where it is right now. I don't think there's
no,
any
there's a
work.
phase 2.
It's going all the way to,
It's going
The
all the way to
center of
Belchertown.
town.
It's going all the way, so they're supposed to be starting the sidewalks at Dufrane's Park down to School Street intersection, the rotary. And then up to Belchertown. And then phase 2, I believe, is gonna be connecting the sidewalk from Five Corners to Dufrane's. So eventually they will have sidewalks all the way down in Granby going from 202 anyways, which is the main road, which is
Yeah.
the busiest road we have.
And people might, they won't walk, maybe they'll walk the whole thing, but I can see maybe
If
you're
I
in
were
the
to
Five
run, if
Corners
I were to
area.
run 202, I would run on the sidewalks. Right now I run on the side of the road, but short distances, because that's where all the car fumes are.
Yeah.
So I choose not to run there.
it's dangerous.
And that too.
I mean, the town that I live in, there's sidewalks everywhere, and
Yeah.
people
Where you
just
live?
go at Long Meadow, and
Well,
people
that's-
just go walking.
That's an urban setting, I'm sorry. It
That's-
is. I mean, you don't have tall buildings,
We
but
have
that's not,
like twice the population of you guys, but it's
Yeah,
not, you know,
that's true.
we,
that's what I'm getting
it's
at,
not,
though.
it's not
And I
like
can
it's
see
a
in Long
huge.
Meadow, where my sister lived in Long Meadow, and they did have small neighborhood parks
Mm-hmm.
that were set up for that particular neighborhood. And actually, that's how you know where you live, by the neighborhood by the park you're close to. So, but that's where the apples and oranges come in.
So I guess I understand where both of you are coming from, but if it's blue, it is important to people in town. I mean, we had
76, I think.
76 people say it's their second priority, so I think we should put it on there. I don't know who that would fall under. Planning board.
Would
I
that
think it
be,
would The planning board, though,
would it? Okay.
yeah.
Well, is that for also maintenance and things? When you say
No, so
who's
maintenance would
responsible?
no, responsible for making it happen is what we're
Making
talking
it
about.
happen,
But maintenance
okay.
has to be the person who owns the house next to that sidewalk, which is the same way
Yeah,
Chicopee and other ones.
Yeah, but
it's-
you're gonna
but at
have a
some point, it may be a
situation-
high priority, but it's not a practical, I mean,
Especially in
we-
Granby, because you're gonna be putting the sidewalk, you're talking about a house, and I agree, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry to jump in on you,
Yeah.
but we've got a lot of field that
Yeah.
a sidewalk is going to buy, and who's taking care of that sidewalk?
Yeah.
There's no house associated with that, so.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what you were saying, Jim.
we should have some sort of veto with some of these things, because
Okay.
it's, to me, it's not,
Okay.
Well, it's a waste of money, I think, you
Yeah.
know.
So not even low priority?
To me, and I guess to
Yeah.
Jim also, because I can't see much of a benefit for it.
Okay.
If you're gonna jog, you jog on the shoulder, because you don't,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to be jogging on pavement anyway, are you?
Yeah.
You
I'd actually
can't.
rather run the road than the grass.
Well, no, yeah. But I don't jog, as you can tell.
All right, so I guess we're gonna take that out.
Okay.
Okay, next one.
Community Preservation Act.
Yes, so we had talked about that. So you said it was funding, right? That,
Yeah, so
When
it's
we-
a surcharge on, so I don't know politically if that is feasible in town,
Okay.
but it would be a surcharge on property taxes. There are matching funds from the state, and then that money, at least 10% of it has to be spent on historic preservation, 10% on affordable housing, and 10% on open space parks. But from there, you can, any of those categories, you can do more than 10%, but it has to be at least 10% for each of those.
What type of a surcharge is it, do you know, on the taxpayers?
I think the town can set, there's a couple different, I want to say like 1.5%, and then there's, kind of a sliding scale up or down depending on what the town sets, but obviously the more that you set, the more you get in matching funds from the state.
So that's set by the select board, though, I guess, or?
It would be set at town meeting.
instead of telling
Yeah.
me that'd be a vote,
All right,
so good
all
luck.
right. Well,
but it is something that we can try to do because it would help us maintain some of the stuff that we're trying to do without having to ask for
gotta
extra money
really
afterwards.
identify the benefit.
Yeah, which is
Well,
something I
otherwise
think we
it'll get
talked
shot
about,
down really
right? Some
quickly.
communities will shoot it down because they don't understand what the benefit
Yeah.
of it is.
That's, you gotta
So
lead
it's
with the
really-
benefit,
yeah.
otherwise it won't.
Yeah, if you lead
Snowball.
with taxes, then,
Now, I'm wondering
Snowball's
how
chance.
so once the tax rate is set, is it 1.5 off in addition to that tax rate? Or is it, because then that will then have to be added to the budget before we set the tax rate? You see what I'm
Or you
saying?
take it out of the budget, the town can vote to take it out of the budget.
The
Without
1.5% without a
without an
surcharge?
override or an increase.
Right, that would.
It all depends on how it's presented in the article.
Okay, so if you take the 1.5% out of the budget, it's before it hits the free cash or stabilization, is
Yep.
what you're saying. And then the state could still match the funds of whatever the taxpayers have decided. I like that.
Yeah,
as
they don't care
opposed
how
to-
you're getting it.
As long as it's not
No.
increasing their taxes.
No,
Or
I'm
the
saying,
state.
the state
Okay,
doesn't care
yeah.
how they get it, whether you take it out of your budget or.
But if you take it out of your budget, you're reducing already a tight budget. But the
But-
state funds,
You're reducing what
Can't-
goes into savings, basically.
but the state, oh, you take it out of savings? Is
You would
that-
take it out of free cash or stabilization, so you wouldn't penalize any department in town.
Well, that's where
It
I
would
was
be-
going.
Or you
Yeah.
wouldn't increase the taxes to. do
Increase
it.
to the-
But
Right.
you'd still need a vote to.
To do this.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
I think it's definitely a moderate priority, would you say? Because it could help fund
Well,
maybe not
I-
everything, but it's the majority of the stuff that,
Well, I don't, unless you know what the
Matching funds, or
the likelihood of getting anything that would, if it's.
is it absolute, or is it got a,
Yeah.
is Boston can say, well, we're not gonna do that this year?
That's right.
And my question was, if the state funds come, can they be used to replenish any budgets or whatever, or?
it
does
has to be
has to be
for
used
historic
for-
preservation, affordable housing, and
It'll-
parks and
it'll- It'll be
recreation.
earmarked for sure.
It has to be earmarked, in other words, so.
Yeah.
Wherever you get your share,
So the
you're not
likelihood
gonna
of getting
replenish
it
it.
based on doing it would rate it based on, to me, well, the likelihood of if you decide to put that percentage in, your likelihood is 90% to get something back, then it would be a higher priority. If the likelihood, and that would be, I mean, there's got to be some history on who.
Well, Derek, can you
I mean,
can you answer his question?
My
That's a good
understanding
question.
is, and I haven't looked into it recently, but my understanding is the state, whatever it is that you bring in, the state matches. So if you bring in.
Which is
you know,
absolute, it's not like they can,
Then say they're not funding it this year.
Boston doesn't always follow through on things.
Yeah, and I don't know all of the
So if that
the fine print.
that 1.5% equates to
Whatever.
50,000,
Yeah.
we're guaranteed 50,000.
That's my understanding.
That's a high priority, I would
Yeah.
think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
if we can get another 50 or whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever
because
it
just
is.
to do what we want to do for recreation, like he was saying, we can spend 80% on open space and 10% on affordable housing and 10% on historical district.
That's better than the Dow.
It
Right.
gives us cash to do things,
Right.
right?
So I
To
think-
realize some of these other things.
But we could also say in the next year, we need to do some historical preservation of something, like one of the buildings in town or something. We can use the 80% for that as opposed to
Yeah.
open space. So I think it's high priority too.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then would the Board of Selectmen initiate that and
It
put
would
it on the
have to be,
warrant?
because it
Or would
would
it be
have
the
to be
Finance
warrant.
Committee or?
Ooh.
Still the select board.
I think it's
Select
still
board
the
has to
select board.
recommend it to the.
They would,
Yeah.
you're the gatekeeper, so you would
Yeah.
steer it wherever.
No article goes through to town meeting without select board approval, so.
Okay. All right, so those, I think, are all of the recreation, that goal is a really big one, so that, but,
Yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about the recreation thing is, we didn't talk about any type of concession.
For how much? We're gonna charge people, or
Well,
what do you mean?
any type of building that, for concessions.
For
to-
concession stands, that is one of the things that Grimby does not have. All the other towns have it.
Whether it's at Dufrane's or if it's a mobile unit or whatever.
The
I
high
don't-
school has it, and for games, they have a concession stand that,
Is it
it's for ball
fixed
games
or
and
is
for
it?
soccer games. It's a
is-
fixed building.
It's not a mobile.
I don't know
like,
that
it's
they
not
have
a-
running water back there. I think they might.
Truck.
I don't know. No, it's a fixed building. We don't have one at Brown Ellison, we don't have one at Dufrane's. And I think what it is the other towns have their games back to back to back to back, whereas we have one game here or there. So I think if we had a Parks and Recreation Department where you had a game that started at 8 and then the games weren't over till 2, then there's a need for a concession stand. But when it's only one game here and then the next game's not till 2, then there's no need for a concession stand.
Who operates those? You
It's
get a vendor?
it's usually the parent associations of whatever games.
Oh.
So like the football one that I'm in for my son, it's the parents that run the concession stand.
They bring in funding to help
Yeah.
maintain fields or.
Right.
They're nonprofits, right?
Yep. So that money is to help fund the organization itself, because it's at Amherst High School is where they have it. So they have a concession stand, they have the tower above that calls out all the plays at the football
Oh,
games.
all right.
And then they have a grill for
Oh.
hamburgers, hot dogs. People make crock pot meals, baked potato bar, chili,
And
soup
money's
and
raised
stuff
at that stand supports
For
the
the
athletic association?
for the association.
It's a way of helping maintain the association
Yes.
without going back into the bank all the time.
For the parents, yes.
Yeah, well,
Well, the taxpayer
the
too, because
parents,
some of.
well,
it
that's what I'm
go
talking
towards-
about when I said the bank, it's
Well,
the
this is a
taxpayer
regional
budget.
football team, so I don't know that.
That's how they're operating it. But
Right.
if it was to be operated
Yep.
to help maintain or,
Yeah. And GAA does a parent association too, to where the parents of the team run the concession stand
I
as
don't,
well.
I don't know if it's I don't know what the profit margins are.
Yeah.
If it's a high
Probably
priority,
slim,
but
but-
it should be, even if it's, the profit margins are low, it's still a service.
It's a
When you're-
service to
when you're running
attract
out of-
people.
When you're, to attract people, when you're running out of work, grabbing your kids to go to a game.
To grab a hamburger, hot dog, or a grinder, or whatever.
Yeah.
Most
I mean,
municipalities
people will do
have
that.
something like that at
When we do the quad meet for my son for his wrestling team, I got food, Serve Safe certified so that I can run the concession stand for them. And they made over $700
In one day?
in one day,
Yeah.
because it was a quad meet.
Yeah.
So it was, I think actually that day we had 6 other wrestling teams come and compete.
So how many people would you say are in that?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
Oh,
in and out.
really?
Because
So
you
you're not
play
only-
3 teams, you wrestle 3 teams in that one day.
So you've got the teams plus the
the-
families or
yeah.
viewers that are coming to
Yeah.
watch. And you've got hundreds of
compete.
people.
Yeah.
Well, or compete, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about the population of the
Well, we should-
audience.
I think it should
It's a
be,
big
Whether it's
fundraiser
a
for the
mobile
wrestling
unit or
team.
it's a,
I would like exploring a mobile unit first, just to keep the costs of the town
Yeah.
limited. I think even with a mobile unit, you still have to provide some services to it. It has to have electrical,
Yep.
it may have to have water, I don't know.
most of them are
No, I
self-contained.
understand, but
Yeah.
don't they need electrical
No,
or?
they're a lot of them are self-contained.
They would have a battery backup and stuff.
Yeah, I used to sell Ding Dong, and that thing had its own battery. Just had
what
to
the hell's a
keep.
ding dong? These people don't know what a ding dong is.
Well, I don't know. Ice cream truck.
I was gonna say ding dong carts, we had them in
Big dog
Chicopee when I
carts,
lived there, they would
We
have
had a
their
button
little,
and ring
yeah.
and-
All right, well,
So Hadley Falls
so
had
you're
it when
giving
I was
away,
growing
you're
up.
giving
and-
away a little bit of your,
So
All right.
priority for that,
Entrepreneurs.
that's gotta be a medium, I would think.
Medium.
okay. And then we didn't do the priorities for all of the other rec ones, so just quickly going through those. So
Okay.
the pickleball one,
I say hi, it was a high
High-based,
priority on here.
okay.
the toddler swings,
High.
Okay.
tennis courts,
Well, so what do you mean by tennis
like
courts?
reconstructing the tennis courts.
Yeah, we don't have tennis courts right now,
Do we want,
so.
is there a need for tennis?
Well, I
No.
think it should be tennis slash
Pickleball,
Pickleball.
just in
Okay.
case they,
Yeah, can you
because I
use
think
the
the high
same-
school, I don't know, can you use the same one? Yeah, because I think pickleball, you would just cut a tennis court in half the other
Yeah,
way, right?
I'm sure,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to do it versatile.
Okay, should I broaden it to just repair high school athletic?
It's beyond repair, it's
That's-
replace.
that's-
It's, yeah, so
But-
I would still do, yeah,
Or
pickleball
repair and
slash tennis
replace
court.
slash or whatever, but.
Yeah.
But in terms of the other athletic fields at the high school, do any of those need any work, or is it only
They just put
the?
a sprinkler system in the soccer field. They did it in the boys' baseball field. They haven't done it in the girls'
Okay,
Soccer field at the school,
at the high school.
at the high school?
Yeah, because it's a huge open field, so all the grass was dying because it gets really dry back there. So they put a sprinkler system in. I don't know if it was a school, I don't know, who did
did
it,
it?
but. And they have it for the baseball field for the boys, but not the softball field for the girls. I think they were trying to do it in steps.
Yeah.
all right. So then ADA accessibility, I'll put for high priority. To collaborate with DCR to access Aldrich Lake.
I think because it's such a big issue, shouldn't we say high? Or would you say medium?
no, I would say high because,
It probably needs to be on the high because we
Yeah.
have more private homeowners around that lake.
Yeah.
And,
and and to access it, to be able to use it. there's-
Access is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a huge,
And
huge
that's
safety
the,
problem.
that's the, well, safety, number
Yeah.
one. Number two, I don't know of any other access points
There isn't.
because the entire lake is subscribed by private homeowners.
Yep.
So that area that we're talking about is the only option for a public access point, for Aldrich Lake anyway.
And then for dredging the pond at Dufrain, would that also be high?
That needs to
That's-
be done 50 years ago. So yes, it's a high priority. Most of the fish can't survive in there.
Okay.
Well, the bass like it.
In the murky area, right, in the back.
They like the whole pond, I'm told.
Oh, do that.
Because they like the
I've gone fishing there many
weeds, they
times, I
like.
never get a bass.
What's that?
I said I've gone fishing there many times with my kids, I never get a bass.
Pumpkin seed.
Pumpkin seed, and maybe once in a while, the rainbow trout that was stocked will bite.
Well,
We took a rainbow trout home.
they don't put trout there. The
Yes, they
waters,
do.
no, they don't.
Mass Wildlife, yes, they do, and I stocked it with charter
We're talking
boats.
about Forge Pond?
No, Dufresne's. We're talking about
Oh,
Dufresne's.
I'm sorry.
I was like, yes, they
Never
do, I
mind.
stocked it with them.
Never mind. Yeah, you did.
I was like,
you-
I've never seen
yeah.
any bass in there.
No, I thought we were talking about Forge
Oh,
Pond.
okay.
Drainage.
All right,
draining
conservation?
Forge Pond.
Yes, so we have a lot of other goals to get through, but thankfully those goals are a lot shorter in terms of the number of potential actions.
Yeah.
So on, and this is the other sheet that has, I don't know if I handed this out, this is the same as on, I think, page 50 of the plan. But all the other goals are more or less tied in with conservation. So for the one that's protect open space, that first objective there, identify land that is necessary, that was a very high priority. And then also pursuing grants was another
Yep.
very high priority.
Yeah, I would leave that as a priority.
So are there any particular parcels that the town already has in mind that would be, or do we not want to, because sometimes towns don't want to say what parcels because then it creates demand for it and
It's
could,
not a good negotiating.
yeah.
I
So,
don't know of any parcels though myself. I think maybe is it just to protect what we already have? Or do they want us to identify new land? Because
And
a
that-
lot of the land is private land, right? So we're not gonna take somebody's land necessarily, but we also have a lot of land for people to use as open space.
That's right.
yeah,
So
the
we-
second action would be trying to get grants to acquire, if valuable conservation
Okay.
area came on the market,
Okay.
the town might be interested in pursuing that if they had grant funding to
Part
be
of
able
it
to
is
do
you have
that.
to identify it first.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Do we identified it?
Well, typically, if something comes out of, is it 61A or 41?
Yeah, 61A for conservation.
Mhm.
Then
The town gets the
town has
right.
first right of refusal. There's a committee that looks at it to see if it's something that
The land review committee, right?
Yep, would,
Be
has
worth-
a
Well, that's
a
tied to our
useful.
tax base, but I was looking at it more from the conservation side. If we identified land that's in private hands currently, but the town had its eyes on it, and when it came up for sale, how does the town actually purchase that land?
Yeah, so if it's not
If it's-
coming out of
if it's not-
61A,
if
if
it's
it's
not
not coming out of some
a-
sort of a tax shelter, then there's no, as far as I know, there's no mechanism.
There's no vehicle for the town,
For-
other
for-
than
for the
buying it
town-
on the open market. in
Then to
other
buy it
words.
on the open.
And I think when people saw this question too, they saw pursue grants and other funding sources. They might not have necessarily
Meant land.
knew what it meant after that. Just like,
Okay.
that's something that we need, because that's something that we've needed for a long time. So, I don't know. I don't know, maybe they did read land acquisition, but I feel like we offer a lot of open space in Granby.
Yeah,
do.
there's mechanisms there already through
Yeah.
the state.
Well,
So-
that's what I'm wondering about, if there's something there that,
So in other words, if you're looking, again, when you say open space, you're talking conservation land. It's useless for, it has no real value to it. But the state has a
Well-
mechanism or where they'll purchase it for, the state also has funding to purchase property that is developable.
the point specific that and I'm not going to use any names, but on West Street, you've got a number of houses along the street, and at the bottom of the hill from the school, and there's basically open space behind there, it's all swamp.
Yep.
And I know that's held by a private person right now. And he can't develop it because it's all wetland. Okay, it's literally, you got a vernal pool in there, you got a creek in there, there's perennial streams, so you're not going to develop that area. And I know he voiced his desire that he'd like to give it to the town. But I'm wondering if the town was interested in something like that, because now it becomes a different use. You can, by the way, walk through there.
So
You could have trails, you could,
I'm on the land review committee.
Okay.
So when we look at it, we look at for the town's perspective, we look at it to say, one, what could the town do with it? Is it something that would be, we could put a school on it? If it's wetlands,
You're going to use it for recreational purposes primarily.
so we make a recommendation to the select board whether or not there's a good use for it. If there's not a good use for it, why take it off the tax base?
Well, that's the other side of it.
So
When he was talking about it, I'm thinking that, why would the town want it? Because you're paying taxes on it right now,
and there's nothing you can do with it
and you
anyway.
really can't use it
So
for
it's
anything.
going to be preserved as open space anyway.
Now, if he gave the land to the town, that's a different
And
horse
and
of a
we,
different
and we look
course.
at that too, and it's been looked at before, and the town's refused.
Oh, the town can refuse that?
Can refuse it, that we're not interested in it, leave it on the tax base. There's nothing we can do with it. We don't want the liability, we don't want to maintain it.
Because if people go there. and-
Well, it's being used actually by all the neighborhood kids already. There's different dirt tracks in there and stuff like that, so, but, I understand. So,
But the state has programs to buy.
so the individual could approach the Commonwealth and see if they want to purchase it.
All right, so for identifying land and pursuing grants for land acquisition, how do you guys?
To me, I voted that as low.
Okay.
I know it comes in here as second or medium.
Yeah, it's very
I-
low.
I remember voting on that, and I put it on the low side, because I think we do, as Crystal, you're saying, we have
We have
lots
a
of
lot,
opportunities
yeah.
already.
And again, I think they just pursue grants and other funding, they're like, yes, we need that.
That's.
Put a dot there.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yes.
the buzz in town is, we need someone to write grants for us, because we're
Yeah.
missing opportunities.
Well,
Yeah,
And that's
so
what
true.
I think
It is.
that was probably
that's
viewed
where I'm
as.
thinking they were going.
And if there was a piece of property out there that was going up for sale, or the town was approached, and it would be
super attractive.
super attractive for the town, then of course they would look for ways of acquiring the property one way or the other. So, low priority.
All right, so low for both of those.
Both of which,
Identify land that is necessary,
And the grant
and
writing.
then pursue grants and other funding.
okay,
We don't want to talk through your time here.
that's fine.
How are we doing?
You got,
It's 20 of.
yeah.
Encourage landowners to protect land from future development. I think we do a good
Well-
job of that, don't we?
And there's a lot of chapter land for sure,
Yeah.
which is not,
On the
it's
map,
not
right?
permanent protection, but,
Right.
and there are a good number of conservation and APR lands as well, which is permanently protected.
Okay. So who would be, so if we put, so if this was a medium priority for the people who took the survey, so if we were to put that on there, and we said it was a medium priority, who would be responsible for that conservation?
I think conservation, historically, that's where it's fallen before.
So we can leave it on there and put conservation with a medium priority.
you know.
Which one is this?
The
This-
blue one, encourage landowners to protect land from future development through voluntary conservation restrictions. But I know the select board just approved Chris to sign on behalf of the select board for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to look at the housing issues that all of Pioneer Valley is having, and to work with a group to figure out where we could have other housing opportunities. So I don't know that it's gonna happen in Granby, but we're part of that study to see what could
When you talk
happen.
about that, is that availability when you?
Yeah, availability of where we could
What's
put
a housing?
housing. Because there's a
low-income
housing
housing
crisis.
or
Well,
any-
it's, there's a
all-
housing crisis, so to make housing more affordable.
Affordable primarily. Accessible and affordable. I hear
Yeah.
it all the time, yeah.
And equitable.
Can't
You
forget
hear that a lot?
Capital E, not a little e, lowercase.
All right, so we'll put that as medium, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, maintain vigilant application of wetlands and river protection regulations. I feel like conservation does a really good job of
Yeah,
that.
that's one of our bailiwicks, so that's,
So
I would
keep
keep
that
that,
as
don't-
medium or high?
uh.
Because you
well,
guys already do
certainly-
it, so I
Certainly
feel-
medium, but
Okay.
it could be on the high. I mean,
Well,
they're,
medium, but high with conservation.
Right, but medium for the
with us,
town?
yeah.
Because you guys do it.
That is
So,
that's our
yeah.
primary responsibility.
Adopt a town wetlands protection bylaw to strengthen existing regulations, don't we have
We
any?
don't have a bylaw
Oh.
in Granby, so that
Okay.
would be the only question. Do we want to write a bylaw specific to that, like some of our neighbors
Which would
have
be off of
bylaws?
mass general laws anyways, right?
Well, we already work on the mass general
Right.
laws, but bylaws are specific to Granby or.
And
or
they can be
community.
stricter than
They can be
the
strict, we can
baseline.
turn the knob on certain aspects of the law. If we have a specific need, or if we have an area that's exceptionally vulnerable, for
Yeah.
instance, and I can't think of one right now, but we could add higher responsibilities, whoever wanted to use that land.
Being on the conservation, do you feel like we need that though? Do you feel like you guys?
Personally, I don't.
Okay, so
I
then,
think the Commonwealth laws are, the
Are tight
Wetland
enough.
Protection Act
yeah,
there,
Mass General law is pretty tight, right?
yes.
Okay,
Well,
so
the
why don't we
wet-
just
they're
go
wetland
low for that
protection,
one, because
so-
we do, conservation does a good job of
It's
following
tight-
Mass
and it's
General
tighter
laws.
out here than it is in the eastern part of the state.
Probably, I don't know, so.
Collaborate actively with regional watershed associations, what exactly does that mean? Like,
So that would be, and I don't know, I'm not sure what, because you
Again,
would
that-
be,
That's conservation.
It's
more-
conservation.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've already identified a lot of the watershed areas in town where instead of having a 1 acre parcel
Yeah.
to build on, you need 2 acres or whatever.
Mhm.
But we
Okay.
certainly have it
Okay.
in we have our water recharge area over on the Carver Street side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where the lot sizes are supposed to be larger,
That's right.
a little bit
That's
larger,
what I'm-
minimum,
that's what-
minimum lot size.
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
So, so we've already got that in place. We just got to make sure people follow it. That's,
So
when-
didn't-
when they cut up their land, that they're not.
is there any kind of collaboration with like, because Belchertown would be upstream of you, right? And then South Hadley is
Where we're talking,
downstream.
it's actually aquifer recharge, so it's a little.
Okay.
It's different.
But in terms of the surface waters, so flows from Belchertown through Granby to South Hadley? Is that where most?
Primarily, I think when you, Turkey Hill, Bachelor Brook. Well, Muddy Brook goes the other way. That's the one I live on. So Muddy Brook flows into Stony Brook, which goes into Chicopee.
Okay.
Well,
No,
it
it's
bounces
south.
into Chicopee, but it comes back out here, doesn't it?
comes right-
And it goes
right here.
through South Hadley. So it does follow what you said. I just went through with my head where
So-
it goes to South Hadley and then into the
There's a saying, there's
Brunel's,
a saying for that.
what's that?
There's a saying
Oh, I
for
know.
that.
At Brunel's Marina, it goes into the Connecticut River. So yeah, South Hadley.
Yeah, so I guess if you thought there would be any value to collaborating with, the other towns in the area in terms of, surface water protection.
I wouldn't say no because you don't know what benefit that somebody might be doing that we're not taking advantage of.
Well, we've been on the downhill side of Belchertown's.
Forever.
With Bachelor Brook, because their sewer treatment plant.
Oh, it's upriver from that, isn't it?
That's right, and it was dumping into Bachelor Brook.
oh boy.
We wonder why Bachelor or
They-
Forest Pond has
They've
so
changed
much.
it since, and
Oh.
they've got a bigger plant there now, but the leaching beds they had,
Still were flowing
Were-
into the watershed.
So it would be good to collaborate
And
then.
we wonder why Forge Pond has so much junk growing in it.
that's exactly the reason why. It's been cleaned up, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, but we
they
all
put
know
it-
that
they
takes
put
a
it-
while to.
They put a new plant in, but
Do you want to say
Anyway,
medium priority?
I would,
Medium.
I think there is a good reason to collaborate.
And then determine if land acquisition is necessary for protection of aquifers. Are there any drinking water concerns in terms of the,
We
You're
have
worried
some.
about, what is it, the PCBs leaching into the water, right?
No,
PCBs?
no, or E. coli,
Yeah,
not PCBs so much. But, I mean, PCBs can happen from,
that's,
but
But-
that's for, is that more for,
that would be more like South Hadley.
For the
Yeah.
city water and
The city
stuff?
water.
Okay.
This-
our issue is E. coli, basically. And with our Board of Health, Mr. Bombadiri's, we've got some of the strictest design standards for our leach fields in the state. So I think we're working in, we're working in the right direction with it.
Okay.
But when you start talking about drinking water, we had a parishioner who's selling their house, and she has some health challenges, and she was having some issues, so for some reason, they checked, maybe through
They
the
tested the
sale,
water.
they checked the water, and it turns out they had E. coli in the water. And
Those typically come from shallow wells.
it's, exactly, and it turned out it was being polluted by around the surface. The well water was fine, but when they drew it up, it was polluted. So she put out this memo to everybody that got everybody frightened, and it was episodic at their property. It wasn't everybody. So,
So if you're determining if land acquisition, would land acquisition be conservation and drinking water aquifers be Board of Health?
well, it's probably a combination.
Yeah.
It's probably a combination.
So do we want to put this at medium, since that's what they
Well,
voted
that's,
it
I
as?
wouldn't, I
or-
wouldn't change it. I
Okay,
think.
so medium and then planning board and Board of Health?
Yeah.
Okay. And expand existing town water and sewer, so that's something that we've put on hold this year because we have too many other issues in town.
I would-
But that is something that we
yeah.
want to pursue. We want water and sewer to
Yeah.
go down 202. We can't get businesses in here without it.
And would that be a high priority, do you
Yes.
think? Okay.
It's the only way we can
Well, if
increase our
it's
tax
localized
base
to, yeah, if it's localized,
to 202.
yeah.
No.
Well, for business
There's
purposes.
no water on 202.
Right, it only goes to, actually right here, right?
It goes-
No, it goes to Pizza Palace.
No.
Is that where they stopped? No, because they had to go over the culvert.
Actually,
here,
it
right?
doesn't go to Pleasant Street.
There's no water
So
in
does
town.
CVS, all those businesses are on wells?
Yep.
But the community right over here, High Street and all of them, there are some of them that have South Hadley water. Are you sure?
They're small,
I could have sworn that there was a couple of them that had
those are
South Hadley
small
water.
lots. And
Yeah.
they all, or
think-
do they, now do they get do
They
they
may
have
be on-
municipal sewer?
They have sewer, but I
Okay.
don't.
So you can make a smaller lot with a sewer system,
Okay.
so.
So I would say that's a high priority just because 95% of our tax base is private, is us.
Yeah.
So we
Probably
need
higher
to
than
increase.
95%.
Yeah.
Maybe 98%
Like
is
90,
rural.
yeah.
Are there any other potential actions for water supply, water protection that we could put in here?
Additional, you're saying? That's
Yeah,
not
Yeah, if there's anything
identified?
else that you think would be helpful to do to work towards that goal of protecting water resources and water supplies.
When you look at the number one polluter, is pollution coming from old septic systems. I mean, and we're tackling it. Every time a house transfers, you have to upgrade your septic and well sometimes. We've got a lot of shallow wells in town still, which is, I find surprising. But we're already on top of that, I think, with the Board of Health. And
I don't think there's anything else that we could do.
I'm
through
trying to
this
think
program.
of, because I wouldn't go down the PCB road, that's more of a,
Public water supply.
well, public water, but also you need more industry in town. And I think
Okay.
we don't have that
No, we don't.
for the potential. I mean, do you, Jim, have any? The only places I've ever been where PCBs have been an issue were either in cities or industrial areas where
Okay.
we're trying to do something, and Granby doesn't have any of that.
And most of that's already regulated by,
It's
within the EPA.
well regulated, I think.
with- Since GE and all that up in the Pittsfield area.
So just a
Exactly.
question for you guys. Once somebody has their well and they have their septic system and it's been
Approved. by the-
approved and then 50 years go by, like in that amount of time, is there a certain amount of time that goes by that they need to get it inspected or anything? Or is it just good until it transfers over?
It's, at my understanding, the state only mandates, and this is probably tied more to the banking industry,
Yeah.
because they wind up being responsible. Because
Okay.
when the transfer occurs, the
Okay.
banks mandate that
I was
you
just
have
curious how
this.
that works.
So at least that's my understanding. I mean, a bylaw, a town bylaw could have something like that, but since we don't have a bylaw,
I think the town requires it anytime there's a.
I think our Board of
A-
Health
a
requires
transfer,
it
yeah.
also.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's a no from us.
Okay.
That one.
All right. So then the goal of maintaining rural character, that those last three things under the conservation goals were the ones that were under the rural character one. And all of them rated as low priorities at the public visioning, create a comprehensive town plan, revisit zoning and subdivision bylaws, and identify important historical and archaeological sites.
Yeah, I would say they're still low priority.
Yeah, none of them, I wouldn't.
I mean,
vote
our
on.
bylaws need to be updated. They're very outdated. So I don't know that they necessarily have the town's vision in mind. But that's something that they had a bylaw review committee back before 2020 because we were under the tent, right? And then 4 hours of a town meeting, we never got to it and it was tabled indefinitely. So that is something that we should work towards, but not just for zoning and subdivision, all of our bylaws. So,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
they're not consistent.
They're not even consistent with Mass General Law anymore, because they're so
Well,
old.
probably, but
Yeah.
Well,
all you gotta do is start reading them and.
You gotta
Yeah.
remember, the town bylaws, whether it's zoning or it's a living, breathing document.
Yeah.
There's things that
No,
change.
It looks
that we-
like a living because it's all cut and paste and.
Well, no, but the point is, what may have been relevant 40 years ago.
It's not relevant now.
It's not relevant anymore, or it needs to be adjusted, you know. I think we're working with the select board right now to get funding through PV's Pioneer Valley for a grant through the state to take a look at the bylaws, the zoning bylaws.
Just zoning? Because I
Well,
think you can have someone come in, a company come in, and I was told for like 28,000, and they can make sure that your bylaws are matched with Mass
Consistent.
General Law.
Correct. That's what
So-
we're looking at doing, not just
Yeah.
zoning, but
Well,
also.
all of them, right?
Planning board.
Well,
Well, you guys would be
we're
responsible for
focusing
planning.
on planning.
Right.
Yeah, that's your department, so that's what you focus on, so.
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
So if all of the potential actions under maintain rural character are low priorities,
You can put medium for revisit zoning and subdivision, right? Because I think that's more of a priority. It's not low, because I think we need it to
Okay.
be consistent and
And if
to,
that's going down the road of your grant, that's one of the things you want to do with
yes,
your
if it's
grant.
not on
Yeah,
here.
but I would still say it's a low
Low,
priority,
okay.
because we're already doing that kind of
Okay.
stuff.
Oh.
I wouldn't make it a high
You wouldn't put it
priority
as
for
a
this.
goal.
Okay, okay.
That's valid.
That makes
That's
sense.
valid.
are there any other actions to work towards, or do we not want to have that maintain rural character goal then if everything under it is a low priority?
Well, I guess one of the questions I had with that is, what does that mean when you say maintain rural character?
That's
There's a number.
based on the
older one.
the old plan. That was one of
Right.
them. Do I have
But
that?
what I'm getting at is, what does it mean?
So when the planning board looks at that, you know, through the master plan of what, when we look at I'll just throw something, a brand new Dunkin' Donuts is coming. Rather than them putting up that big orange sign, we ask them to put in something that's more suitable for the character
Of the town.
Now, they're okay here, but if they were to, if zoning allowed it in the center, in the common area, we'd ask for something to be a little bit less,
Subdued, more subdued rather.
that's how,
We
That's-
maintain the
that-
rural character.
yeah, that's,
Well, I guess that's exactly what I'm talking about, is I don't
It's
see the
up for
vision of the
interpretation.
town changing. There isn't enough, I mean, the population isn't changing. I don't know about our through traffic numbers, if that's changing a lot.
way up. We're a big rotary. I say this all the time at meetings.
We're a big rotary.
We're a big rotary.
go in and out.
This town has traffic that
A
goes,
to B,
that
or
goes
A to
through
C.
it.
Through it all
And
the
there's
time.
no reason to stop. So going back to the rule, Dollar General, that wasn't a big box type of
Building.
concrete building. It kind of blends in with the character of the town. It's
But
all
we
up,
manage
it's all
that.
up for, you know.
We manage that through our planning board / zoning board of appeals group, correct?
No, just planning.
Just planning board? Okay. Well,
And-
ZBA gets
and-
involved if they want
Z-
to change the use, right?
ZBA gets involved if it's a zoning issue.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we're going on.
Yeah, we are running short on time. I do want to respect your time. So the last two goals, ensure that the public is informed and concerned about open space, resource protection, and recreation needs. The objectives under that, establish outreach and educational programs using all available media and develop educational programs. I think we came up with these at the last meeting, if I remember correctly.
And I would say that both of those are a medium because we don't have a Parks and Rec department right now. We have GAA, but we don't always get a prize of it if you don't have Facebook either. So I feel like there could be better ways to do outreach for parents and for people in general.
Okay.
And I think if we get a Parks and Rec department, they can do more outreach with the seniors and so forth and have more programs and stuff, but we need to develop that department.
Yeah. And then to that point, for the last goal, ensure that the town utilizes sound management practices for the effective implementation. We have appoint a permanent open space committee. I would also suggest saying appoint a parks committee or create a parks department or something
Yeah,
along
I
those
think
lines.
that, yes.
Wouldn't that be one and the same?
Well, Parks Department would be
I
Parks
know
and
there's
Recreation.
more things under Parks and Recreation, but wouldn't part of their responsibility?
Would be open space. So
Yeah.
I might take out open space committee. But what if we don't have a Parks and Recreation, I think is what Derek's saying, which we don't right now. And we don't know if it's gonna be in the budget for next year.
Right.
So if we don't get that, we should at the very least have an open space committee that can pursue some of the things that we want to do.
Right.
Yeah, because a committee would require very minimal funding.
Right.
Versus an actual department where you have employees and everything would be
Yeah.
more difficult.
Well, even that, I'm trying to learn about Granby's, how do you do committees and commissions? I've heard different things from different people, that the town provides budgets for different committees and commissions, but I'm on the conservation, and I was told, well, in your case, you only get, we only can raise funds through our permits that come to the town. That's our primary source of funding, that there is no budget that the town has that
That's
has, well,
incorrect.
conservation has.
That's incorrect.
The town does have a budget or an account that, like their planning board,
I would say high for the open space committee because we
sorry.
can't make any of this happen without it.
right?
And then medium for the increased coordination between boards and committees because, well, we can increase the coordination when needed. You know what I mean? So medium priority.
Yeah,
Does
okay.
that sound good to you guys?
All right.
And then did we say medium for the other ones?
Yes.
Establish outreach
Yeah, we
educational
did. We
programs?
did say that.
So who would those fall under? Open space would be select board. Increased coordination would be select board. What about the outreach? That could be all of us, couldn't it? Like if you need to educate someone from planning board, if you need to educate someone from conservation, right?
And then establishing a parks department, what would the
That would
priority
select
be?
board. Well, right now, we just talked about it at our last meeting, so can you put medium to high, or does it have to be like one or the other?
I think we can put whatever we want.
It should be,
Because
it should be high.
it's definitely a high priority, but it would, again, it's the funding.
Yeah.
It's bigger.
And
But
the
it can
high-
be presented to the taxpayers, and then the taxpayers have to decide if they're willing to fund it.
Yeah, high priority doesn't mean it needs to happen, but it
Yeah.
means that
It
it's
should
something that
happen.
we would like to see
Okay.
happen.
A high desire.
Sounds good. All right, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Well, I have
Derek, do we
something
have to have
specific to ask
another
you
meeting?
anyway.
No, I think this is it, because the
Okay.
last, and I can give you copies of, this is from the state's handbook on the ADA self-evaluation.
Oh,
All right.
We don't really have time to go through any of that, but
Yeah, 7.
that gives us a checklist for each of the, so it's all of the recreation facilities in town. So it doesn't include like town hall or the senior
Okay.
center, things like that, but any recreational,
Like
parks
Forge
and,
Pond.
yeah,
Fishing hole.
yeah. And some of those aren't, there's questions about, handrails and things, there's not gonna be any of that.
Okay.
But other things that are more, structures like, I don't know, do you have any kind of Any indoor recreational, anything?
Other than our schools,
Just the
I don't
school.
know
Yeah,
anything.
Huh.
yeah, okay.
We don't have any pavilion, well,
And the only
I
thing we
shouldn't
really
say-
have here is that elevator.
Yeah, and this building wouldn't be, you wouldn't need to do this building anyway.
Well,
Okay.
the facilities at Dufrane's, are those all?
well, that's where I was just
Yeah,
going.
the bathrooms are.
Yeah.
The kitchen is.
Yeah, I was thinking they were all handicapped.
No, the
accessible.
bathrooms aren't, you can get in the door, there's no bathroom stall. I think there is a bigger.
Oh, the
no,
stalls
there is.
aren't? I thought the
There is,
stalls
there's a
were
bigger
large.
stall. Yeah, there's one stall in the
about the
female.
women's, but I've
And
been
it does
in
have
the
a
men's.
pole on it
Yeah.
in the women's, and I think there's, I think
But
there's-
access also is triggered by activity of the door, and those doors weren't activated. They didn't have a push plate on them.
They
No, they
don't-
leave the door open though.
They
So-
don't?
So that's a fallacy. Doors do not have to have
The push button.
push buttons to be ADA. They only have, an exterior door only
They
has
need
to have a.
the right dimension, but they don't need the activation.
They have to have a 7-pound pull on an exterior door and a 5-pound pull on an interior door.
Yeah. And every time I've been to Dufrane's, those doors were open already.
Yeah,
so
they do.
You
You
just
put the
walk through
stopper
the
on and you
maze.
go right in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that is accessible,
So for this, you need us to do what with it? It's just for our information kind of thing?
Yeah, for now, and then I'll follow up with you on, what, because it doesn't need to be done to get the plan conditionally approved, but in order to get the final full approval, it does need to get done.
Okay.
Um,
In which we would have to have all of our open space areas
Yeah.
ADA approved.
It not ADA approved, it just indicating.
self-evaluation,
Yeah, so it's
so
just
you have to
indicating,
answer.
it's not a pass-fail type thing. It's not like if it's not accessible, then you don't get the
Well,
money.
It
It's
looks like
it's
they're
just,
giving us definitions,
yeah.
so.
It's just to get a sense of, which places are accessible, which ones are not.
Does this packet actually have the evaluation
Yes.
as part of it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what these are
Yeah,
probably?
that big long checklist of everything, it's many pages
So,
long.
following up with Crystal
So I
saying,
wonder if I
do we
could
get this
ask-
back to you, or how do we do this?
So I will, because Mimi knows more about this component. I haven't done this
Oh.
component of it yet with the plan, so
Okay.
I'm gonna meet with Mimi to go over exactly what she needs from you guys.
And then just forward it.
Yeah. But in the meantime, what I'm gonna be working on is finalizing the draft plan. I'm hoping to have that to you by, like, beginning of November.
Okay.
Okay, a couple weeks.
Yeah, so once I get that to you, look it over. If there's anything, anywhere in the plan that needs to be, and if you happen to notice anything in the draft that I gave you today, definitely.
Oh, look for misspellings, okay.
Anything all the way down to grammatical mistakes, or if it's,
Okay.
big things like, you talked about this park that doesn't exist. So in any of
We're
those.
using the right, it's not Aldridge Pond, it's Aldridge.
Yeah, yeah. So in any types of, revisions, edits, things like that, let me know. But I'll send you the final plan once it's done, and then once you all are okay with it, then it'll go to the select board, and the select board will vote to adopt it.
Okay. And then, yeah, so I'll wait to hear from Mimi
Mm-hmm.
from this, because this might be something that we can have our maintenance supervisor do.
Yeah.
Because he does daily check-ins and stuff like that at the park. So
Mm-hmm.
he might be able to do Dufrane's Park for us.
Yeah, and I can get you an
All right.
electronic version of that, so you don't have to handwrite everything in
one?
there.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's all
It
electronic.
might be easy for
That
him,
would be-
easier for him to handwrite it while he's out, then we could always go back and,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay. Sounds
That's
good.
right.
All right. How long do you think, so by November, we'll get the plan? Then it
Yep.
goes in front of the select board and we approve it.
And then it
Adopt
goes
At the
to,
November meeting then, I guess? Or do you
This is our
folks
last
meet
meeting,
once,
I think. We meet.
once or twice a
Twice a month,
yeah,
sometimes more. Seems like it's a lot right now. But, so then, once we adopt it, then you guys file it with the state, and how long before we find out from there?
I'm not sure what the
Okay.
turnaround time is now.
We're
A
rolling.
few months at least.
Okay.
But you'll get the conditional approval, which
Okay.
means that you can then apply for grants.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. So as
Okay.
soon as the plan is submitted, you get the conditional approval.
Okay.
And then you can apply for grants, and then once the DCS will send back any, correct, any comments or things that need to be revised, and
Okay.
then once the plan gets full approval after that, then, so like if you get a grant, but you don't have full approval yet, you have to wait until you get full approval to actually receive
Okay.
the money.
Okay. And then we can still look to PVPC for writing of the grants, right? 'Cause I think
Yes,
that's, not obviously through this grant,
Yeah, yeah.
that we're the DLT
Mhm.
through this, but through other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
But this signifies pretty much the end of working out the development
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
report. Now we just have to read what you produced.
yeah, I have to
Yeah.
take all my notes, and put everything together, and
Well, excellent.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I think it was great working with all of you.
Oh, great.
You as well.
Say hi to Mimi for us.
I will.
Yes. And that is the end of the open space meeting. Thank you.